RMBI gene, here to take you on another level and new horizons. See clear, no visine. Motivational talk, the most positive that I've seen.
Hey everybody, my name is Reggie, and you know me from the Central Straight Talk Show. You know, recently, a lot of conversations have come up about movies. Now, I just wanted to touch on this for a little bit because I went to see the movie Midway, and one of the interesting things that took place was there was a family sitting in front of me. It was another black family, because it was me and then a black family sitting in front of me, and it was the wife and the son, father. Anyway, when the movie was over, you know, the kid said, "Why did black men not want to fight in the war?" And the father was just kind of looking like, you know, I think it hit him because it sort of hit me. And then, you know, he asked another question like, you know, why don't we have black war heroes? Did black men want to be heroes? You know, and he was just asking questions. And the movie sparked these questions because in watching the movie, there were no black characters in the movie at all. The only time a black person was shown, it was for 5 seconds, and basically they showed him from the back. He stepped up and stepped back. And that was it. It was literally 5 seconds. If you blink, you'd have missed it. And you know, it's a tough question for a parent to have to answer. Is, you know, why, as black people, we don't see ourselves portrayed in movies to where we are heroes, to where we are doing something great, where we were a part of the war, where we played a role in World War II, World War I. You know, you don't really see these things on the big screen Hollywood movies. You might see them on like documentaries on PBS, or occasionally something to get copied from somewhere and sent to YouTube, but you don't see real stories about iconic black people, especially black men, where they contributed in times of war. Now, some people are going to say, well, you got the Harriet Tubman story. The Harriet Tubman story was 90%, it was 90% fake. They added so much stuff in there that wasn't true. They added characters in there that wasn't true. So to hear that young man ask those questions, it really just kind of hit me. You know, it was hurtful. It was hurtful because as somebody older, you know, most of the older people I meet know that if you want to learn anything about black history, you have to go and research it and dig deep to look it up. You know, because you're not going to find a lot of black history in encyclopedias. Now there is a set of black encyclopedias. I can't remember the name of them, but they're like these brown books. And you know, that's probably one of the best resources you can buy for your child to help them learn, because schools don't teach you about black history. You know, they don't learn about it. You know, and it just kind of felt like when the kid asked the question, like, black people had no history. Now, I don't know what the father told the son or explained to the son after they left, you know, but me and him just had a quick exchange, and he was just like, you know, it's sad that our kids feel like they have no history and they watch a movie and they got to wonder, did we exist? And he has a good point, you know, but in my opinion, I think Hollywood really doesn't want to include black people in these movies like Midway and some of these other movies, because they don't want to deal with the reality of what they're going to have to show in the movie. How black people were treated by the military, how black people were treated by the government. You got to realize something. The Navy was one of the most racist and discriminating military forces. The way they treated blacks, you know, all of the branches were very, you know, hateful and you know they really treated blacks horrible. But the Navy was one of the top. I mean, even when I joined the Navy in 1989, I experienced a lot of racism in the Navy, and this was 1989. So, you know, the thing about it is Hollywood doesn't want to address those issues, because you can't have a movie with black people and white people fighting a war and pretend like everything was okie-dory, that blacks and whites ate together, blacks and whites sat together. There was still segregation in the war, because you had your black troops, you had your white troops, you had your black places, your places where blacks could eat, the places where whites could eat. They had the black officers club, then you had the black enlisted club. So there was still that division and separation, even when it came to the living arrangements. So it's just Hollywood don't want to cover that. They don't want to deal with that. Because it's reality, it's truth. Midway movie has been made over, at least 4 or 5 times the movie has been made over. It's always been a predominantly white cast in that movie, except for when Cuba Gooding Jr. played a cook on a ship. It's just, Hollywood doesn't want to deal with it. So that's why it's a responsibility of black parents. You cannot depend on the education system. You cannot depend on educational TV. You're really gonna have to rely on getting the resources yourself to help teach your kids about African American history, where we came from, what we contributed, the things we did, because society is just not going to speak on it. They're not going to show it. People say, well, you had the Red Tails movie. Well, the first Red Tails movie was a TV movie. It wasn't a big screen movie. The second movie was Red Tails. That movie came out, it only made out about 6 million. But the thing about it is, I think Black Panther, and this is nothing against Black Panther, but black movies, people don't know how to write. And I think when Ryan Coogler wrote Black Panther, this was a man that wrote a movie that didn't stereotype black people. He wrote about two distinct cultures of the same race and the mindset. And no white person can write that. And that's no offense to white people, but you don't understand the culture of black people. You might live with a black person, you might have black friends, but it doesn't mean you understand black culture. You don't understand black trials. Now, you might observe some things, but you're not living those things. So, with that being said, that's just one of the things that really came up. And, like I said, for those of us who are older, who've been around a while, we know that if you want to learn about how we contributed to wars and how we contributed in history, you're really going to have to do the research yourself. Hollywood is not going to give you the real story. You do have people like Tyler Perry, who owns his own studio, but they're not going to, even he doesn't produce movies like that. Tyler Perry movies, which takes me to another issue real quick. I am so sick and tired of TV shows and movies that feel like they can't make a black movie without a black man beating a black woman. It's like that's the norm now. A black man has to be abusive to a black woman. And it's like every movie has to have that. And it's so out of place. Like Queen and Slim had that, which I don't understand. There was no need for that to be in the movie. Harriet Tubman had another black man who literally stomped out a black woman. And the character was fake. That never even happened in Harriet Tubman's life. And I'm trying to think of the other one, because there was another one that came out, but that's what they do. Even TV shows, black women are always chasing white men. Black women are always overly aggressive. They're always highly sexually active. Black men are always based on criminal behavior. It's like that is the only way they know to portray black people. And because they do that, it's like every movie that comes out has to portray black people in that manner. That was my little side rant. But the thing about it is, what that little kid said to me was hurtful. Not that he was trying to hurt, but he was just inquisitive. He's watching this movie for 2.5 hours, and it's like no black people played a role in the war when they talk about Midway. And a lot of war movies. There's another war movie, and people say, well, maybe there's not enough history. Well, you got the Harlem Hellfighters. You got this the 761 Battalion, which was a tank group. You know, you mean to tell me you can create a movie and follow just two men who's trying to deliver a message that, you know, don't invade this because you're all going to get killed. It's a trap. But you can't make a movie about two men from a, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like they find ways to get white movies created with true historical data, but black movies, they simply avoid. Speaking of which, they're showing the commercial for that movie right now about the two white men that they follow throughout. But the thing about it is, it's like they're afraid. To be honest with you, I think they're afraid to do it. They're afraid to show the truth, because people get mad when they say, you know, black people complain too much about TV, they complain too much about movies, because the truth of the matter is, when you think about it, our history, when you go back to the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, and you try to show us in those time frames, even darn near the 70s, you're dealing with racism and discrimination. So don't get mad at something that we were thrown into and didn't want, but you refuse to portray the truth of how you treated us. So for those of you who are wondering, if you got kids, I hope you can show them this video. Maybe it will give them some insight and you can elaborate on it more with your kids. But to be truthful, black kids, African American children, are going to have to learn and be taught to research their history themselves. Go to black museums. You're going to have to, you know, rely on black encyclopedias to really get that information that's in depth to help you learn. Because other than that, if you're dependent on Hollywood, if you're dependent on movies, you're not going to get the truth about African American history and the important role that you can play and the education you can learn from how hard your ancestors and those that came before you worked so we can have the freedom and opportunities that we have now. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Like I said, this is not to degrade anybody, but this is just a reality. As black and whites, yes, we live in one world, we live on one country, but we have two different realities of life. So that's basically what it is. But thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Do you agree, disagree? And I don't mind that, but if you disagree, just please be respectful. And I promise you, I'll respond back. I don't mind having more dialogue and engaging in conversation, but just please be respectful in your comments. And I would love to discuss this further with anybody who wants to discuss it.
Come on, let's all join in. Free your voice, it's your choice, alright here. Oh, simply straight on.